Easy doesn't mean easy. They don't know what easy is. So maybe just elaborate on how that worked for you, because you figured it out.
Well, easy for me is I never wore a watch on an easy day. I just didn't. And when pulse monitors came around, I started to use pulse monitors to make sure I didn't let my pulse go above 130 on an easy day. That's what I used it for. I didn't see how high it go. You know, I used it to moderate my easy training. And the other thing we did in a group, if you remember the Florida Track Club and then the Colorado Track Club here, we would run in groups. And the instinctive rule that we always came to, and Heather can talk about this too, is we always, when we went out running in a group, two things: conversational pace, always talk, but we always went at the pace of the person who wanted to run the slowest that day. That person dictated pace. And we all deferred to him or her. I mean, it was, everybody could run together, so it was this instinct that you were running as much to develop your cardiovascular system and to recover as you were to really get into shape. And then on the hard days, you went very hard.
I think that, that's the most important thing. As Frank mentioned, a lot of times when we're planning training plans for ourselves or others, scheduling in those easy workouts, people a lot of times don't think they're even worth time being out there and worth the effort to get out there to run at a pace that they don't feel is doing them any good. I love easy runs and I love to do them, and I know the benefit of them, and when they're on my schedule, I can't wait to do it. I find a lot of times that I can't run with people on those easy runs because they'll go too fast, and they assume that if you're a decent level runner, that every time you step out the door you're going at a whatever pace, a fast pace, and that's not the case. As Frank alluded to, and as I mentioned before, in order to go faster, you've got to go slower sometimes, and that's hard for people to wrap their head around, that you actually are getting a benefit from that easy run, and it's so true. The more that you want to run fast, the more that you're going to have to run slow. It's an active recovery, and I think that's so important to being able to run more, to being able to run faster.
Great, great answers. I think if you do any reading in Mike Sandrock's in the back of the room too, and he's a great resource. But all these folks all through time actually produced amazing times, like after these periods of, okay, they have to run real slow because they're hurt or some reason, and then they just come out of the box and they do real well. They're actually forced into that recovery. This question I'll give to the folks who are a little more clinical in the room, but who see a lot of runners in their daily practice or in the labs, so maybe Danny, Abshire, Blaise, and Ivo. So as you're seeing healthy older runners, those ones that are just out there with a smile every day, and they're 60 and 70, are there just some common features you see either in their gait patterns, in how they approach running, or in any kind of strength issue? Just because you learn from the success stories. So, this isn't a study per se, but this is like in your own brain now. What things do you see? Like, do what that guy's doing.
A healthier older runner, you mean?
Yeah, a healthier older runner. They don't need your help. They're just doing it.
You mean like me?
Yeah, like for you.
Me and Frank, and
You see it in others.
the things I see that I really like when I see an older runner, male or female, is that they're still carrying great posture. And that's number one for me, because if you want to be balanced with gravity, you get yourself in good posture. See, I made everybody sit up in their seat. If you practice this good posture, what I see from those folks is that they're upright, and they also continue to have good flexibility in the hip and the knee lift, the recovery phase of the gait cycle, and that they also have this tap, 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 this light touch of the ground, sensing the ground and lifting. So just as if we were all barefoot, running in the grass out here in the park, that's how you need to imagine it. And the healthy, older runners that I see are running in that fashion, with flexibility and form and posture.
I will be a little bit out of the box, but I'm training at Quebec City with some people more old and running since a long time. I saw some people running very badly with big bulky shoes, and they are never injured. And at the beginning, I was trying to understand why, and it was just because those people was so gradual and so close to their sensation, and where they were feeling something, they were just taking a day off, and after this running a little. So it's difficult to do this if you want to absolutely perform. But I think that if your goal is to run all your life, the first thing to do is just to be close to your own sensation and listen to your body and be gradual.
And aside from already what's mentioned, the big thing that you see in older runners are whatever technique it is that they have. And I'll back off for a second. My first marathon ever that I ran was Steamboat. And it's really cold there. It snows sometimes during the marathon. But anyway, I'm coming down and the person in front of me, actually, the person who just passed me, okay, had the absolute worst form I have ever seen on the planet. And I'm like, how can this person be kicking my butt, And the point is, it's not whether your technique is right or whether it's wrong. The technique that you develop is the one that works best for the individual. And maybe for us, that's they have too much heel strike, or they have too much forefoot strike, or they're not cycling properly. But you know what? They've been doing it longer than I have. And for whatever reason, it's working for them. So they've adapted the skill, endurance, and strength that they need for their physiology. So the biggest thing I think that I see in older runners and people that have a lot of longevity is that they've developed their own technique and they're good at it. And the second thing that I've really noticed about them that's great, and maybe it's because they run so much, or maybe it's because they're retired and they get to run more, is that they have the best attitude. They're just the most pleasant people to be around.
That's a great answer. I think a quick follow-on to the same group there. Are there any common patterns you see in those that are just constantly hurt? Any things just come to mind? Any real common patterns that a group here would be able to identify, in a runner, or just from your experience?
Type A. Do you use this term? Type A? Type A.
It's not even a movement pattern.
Type A.
Well said.
Well, that's it. I second that motion. Of course, and I know there's probably a few triathletes in the crowd, right? You guys tend to be right up there at the top. I got 3 sports. I got to practice them every freaking day. I got to do them 3 times a day. I got to go more. Give me more. So that's when you really got to throttle back. I think my friend Paula Newby Frazier is in the crowd out here, and she's one of the greats of reeling herself in. And of course, she used to ride with all the guys and hammer with all the guys, but days she would back off, she would be alone and have those short, easy, aerobic runs where you're just training that system and relaxing. So yes, I find most people just with those lofty goals and want to do more, those are the people that are injured the most. And I think Blaise says the same as me. They come to you and they're the most needy. You help them over one problem and they don't learn from their experience. This is the kicker. And they're back in your face a month later. Now I have a new problem. Can you help me? You have to help me. I'm running out of time. My marathon's in 2 weeks. So we can't live like that. You'll push everybody away from you, okay? Because you'll burn through your physios and your orthopedists because they're going, this person's crazy. They need to slow down a little bit. So I hope I didn't offend anybody.